On today's Success and Excuses podcast, we have Shannon McKechnie. Shannon, welcome to Success and Excuses podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
So I am Shannon McKechnie, as you said, James. I am the managing director at a company called MBN Solutions, and we're a data and AI talent partner. We're based in Glasgow. We've been going for about 18 years, almost 19
Wow.
years. Almost the sort of pioneer, I would say, in what was initially data and now that sort of transition into AI. So it's a really exciting space to be in. We cover all of the UK. We work in Europe. We do a little bit in the US, but definitely got our eye on that global expansion prize as well.
Baby, I was having a look at the website. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
Like, it's very impressive, isn't it?
I think the thing that's super impressive for me, so when I joined the business a couple of years ago, I just love to see the evolution of where they were. And I think the reason that that's been, I wouldn't say easy, but successful is because of the community and the network that's been built up. So Michael, who's our CEO and founder.
Yeah, I follow him on LinkedIn.
Yeah, he's amazing, and he knows you as well. So he's super passionate about the space, about making sure that we're able to bring that community together. So he started like the data and tech meetups about 18 years ago. And now, you can't move in Glasgow for there's one going on every night. It's pretty saturated, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, of course.
Anything I think that brings communities together is a really important thing and a really valuable thing, I think.
So, AI. I want to go there and then we're going to go back to the backstory. We're going to know a bit about you, but we're going to get on AI, right? Because AI is quite scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say, we'll go back to the limiting belief. My belief is it's imperative to stay ahead of the game. But it's the speed that it's improving is quite scary. And you are quite into that AI thing around talent. Go and tell me, what is that?
Yeah.
So somebody listening to us were going, that AI, what talent is it? Is it a recruitment company? What is it?
So what we do, so MBN is a data and AI talent company, a talent partner. So we partner with organisations who are looking to find the best data and AI talent. So we find people jobs effectively, whether that's contract, perm, really senior exec searches we do on a retained basis. And ultimately, as you said, it is scary because, it started off data and AI has been around for years if you think about it, but it's such a topical conversation at the moment that everybody's talking about.
It's available for everyone now. Before it wasn't.
And it's a bit like Google. You remember when Google first came out, right? So everybody
I remember Yahoo.
Yeah, exactly. MSN Messenger and all these things.
Oh, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh,
and your dial-up connection.
Oh my God.
I think it's like anything new is scary. And until you, I suppose, know how to use it and how to get benefit from it. And there's obviously a lot of propaganda out there as well. And there's a lot of scaremongering.
Yeah, of course there is.
AI will definitely automate a lot of jobs, but it will also create a lot of jobs. There will be jobs created by artificial intelligence that didn't exist 10, 20 years ago. So I think the best thing that anybody can do, if I was to give advice, is to embrace it and
100%.
try and learn and try and upskill, not to be scared of it, because it's actually very easy, to use. It's
Once
not easy to build. And the people that are, building these incredible products, those are the people that we are looking to hire for our clients.
Wow. Listen, I'm totally on board with AI. I've got an AI for my emails. So it's called AI Fixer. Fixer AI.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. The amount of, I would say, easily saves me an hour and a half to 2 hours a day.
Yeah. And it's what you do with that time, So I think if you're just using that time, then sit and twiddle your thumbs, what it should do is automate a lot of your processes. So if you're an organisation or a person who has a workflow that already exists and it's a decent workflow, then using AI is imperative to you, because then you can automate those processes, and that valuable time that you gain back, what do you do with that? So whether it's spent on sales, whether it's spent more time at home with your family, whatever that looks like. So I think there's a lot to be said about it. Being honest, I'm not an expert in AI, I'm an expert in recruitment. That's what I do. But I really love...
That's your 40.
Yeah, that's it. That's my specialism. But I think it's great to be in this space. I feel very lucky to have landed in the data and AI world where it is just going to continue to grow, and we're working with some really brilliant clients who are building some amazing things for their clients. You know, a lot of it's consultancy work, so it's exciting.
Absolutely. I want to stick with the AI. So AI, chat. I use quite a few different platforms, but we'll talk about ChatGPT just for anyone listening. And ChatGPT is only as good as the person that's putting the stuff in, right? And it, by the way, it really learns to speak your language. I mean, it's quite scary. Like when I'm building a new training program, I used to spend weeks creating, not necessarily the content. I know what I want it to do, and I know what the flow looks like. So what I now do is I just draft it on a Word document. And I basically talk to ChatGPT like he's my training development person. I say, today you're my training development, and I've obviously got that anyway. And I put all my information in, and I just hit go, and it sets my exercises and the conversations, and then I just send it to my PowerPoint developer. Say, go develop that, and that something that took me a month takes me 2 weeks.
It's a game changer, isn't it?
Oh man, and I could just imagine what it must be like in the world of data and talent, because you're now able to sift through so much data. It's lightning speed to find the best people.
And and that's a bit of a double-edged sword, right? So I think for candidates who are looking for a job, it can be, AI will make it more difficult for them if all they're relying on is an ATS that is using artificial intelligence on the back end. Because it'll be looking for keywords, and if the keywords are not on the CV, but then
so easy, you write the keywords.
Right, exactly. But that's then what's happening. Right, so then a lot of candidates are using AI to design their CV, their portfolio, which again is maybe not their work. And then when you get into a face-to-face interview, for example, they're then not able to back up what's maybe being created. So I think for us, again, it's a really exciting place for us to be in, because we're looking at how we currently assess candidates. Is that fit for purpose in the new world of AI? And also supporting our clients and how they can best do that. If you think back to pre-COVID times, so prior to moving into tech and data and AI recruitment, I was in business support office services recruitment for about 15 years. We never sent a candidate to a client if we hadn't met them face to face.
Right, cool.
And they'd come in at the office and they'd be doing their typing test and their testing Word and Excel and everything. So you had that real, opportunity to meet people face to face and look into the whites of their eyes and make sure they were who they said they were and all of that.
So
Nowadays,
hard now,
it's so hard. And there's an element of it being hard from a distance perspective and people being remote. But there's also a real laziness, I think, where people, we're just so used to saying, we'll do a phone call, or at the very best, we'll do a Teams. But I don't know how many times, you discover that somebody lives 10 minutes down the road and you could have just gone and got a coffee together. And that would have built that relationship a lot stronger, a lot quicker. But what you're then putting in front of your client is tried and tested, and you've really, dug deep to understand who that person is, what their drivers are. And I do feel like you get a much better outcome doing that in person. I know it's not always possible, but where possible, I feel like we really should be.
Agree. And there's a couple of things I want to come on what you said. So the first thing I want to talk about is, I don't know if you're allowed to answer this question or no, but obviously we do a bit of hiring, right? So every year we probably want to hire 2 or 3 people.
Yep.
Sometimes we have to let people go and as you know, the business grows and people can't grow with the business, and sometimes it's a leader you've just got to say, unfortunately, you're no fit to take our business. Anyways, and what I've found is a lot of what they say in their CV isn't true.
Yep.
What would you say, I don't know if you're allowed to say something, but what would you say the percentage of CV is normally bang on?
Yeah, very small. Very small. I personally don't think the CV is fit for purpose.
I agree.
I don't think it's so. Years ago, I had gone to a Vistage event that my friend Simone, she was my MD at the time, she let me go in her place.
I'm meeting somebody for Vistage next week.
They're a brilliant organisation from a leadership perspective, so I can see why you guys would do some good work together. But it was Professor Steve Peters who wrote The Chimp Paradox.
Yeah.
He was given,
what a book.
My goodness, it changed my life. That
what a book.
Completely changed my life.
So I've got my top 5, and that's my top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
The Chimp Paradox.
Know who my chimp is, know my triggers. And that was crucial for me sort of moving forward in life. And but during that session, he set us all a task to sort of go and think about, ways that we could use technology and human connection to, I suppose, revolutionise the industries we were in. Mm-hmm. So I was sort of going away and did a bit of brainstorming and all that, and I came up with the idea, which I didn't realise already sort of existed, but a video technology, CVs.
I think it's
video.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
And then after that, a few years later, I ended up going to be the sales director for a video technology firm. And I was there for about 6 months. I realised that a sort of SaaS startup wasn't for me, recruitment is for me.
Yeah.
But where possible, we use video in all of our processes. So, for example, I worked a really senior job for Arnold Clark, CTO level, it was a retained exec search, and we did a lot of that process was using video technology, which was...
I think video's great technology.
It really does, and I think from a time
get to
perspective...
see the person.
And you just get to see how they answer the question.
Absolutely, the tonality of the voice and how confident they are answering it.
A lot of the time a CV is written based on the job description you were given when you were hired for that job. I don't know how many people really spend a huge amount of time going through and making their CV a true reflection of what they do, what they have done, what they've produced.
That was why I asked the question, because I've always found it's not really true.
Yeah, and I can see from a candidate's perspective why they maybe wouldn't spend a huge amount of time doing that if they think their CV is just going into a huge ATS and it's going to be filtered by artificial intelligence rather than a person.
Absolutely.
So it's a bit of, as I said, a bit of a double-edged sword, but I really don't think the CV is fit for purpose, and I think in the world that we are in and entering into, then I think there will come a time in the pretty near future where it will be defunct.
Right, I want to go back to the video in a minute, but I also want to talk about this, right? Because it's one of my peeves is really bad recruitment companies, right? I have used a few over the years and I have never had a good experience.
Interesting.
Never had
You've
a good
obviously
experience.
Never used me.
I've never used you, of course. I've never really had a good experience. Some of the candidates they bring, so normally obviously they filter them and then they send you the ones that they think, and I just think to myself, like, for example, I won't get into particular details, but I was looking for a business development manager. I wanted them based in Scotland. Because we're national, and about 80% of our business is outside of Scotland, so only a small percentage is inside Scotland. So I thought we're probably one of the biggest training companies in Scotland. We're missing a huge trick. Because we're Scottish, I'm Scottish, right? So I'm missing a huge trick. Could I find a BDM?
Yeah.
I mean, and we're paying pretty good money.
It's always been a tough market. So I remember when I was at Search, there was two guys who ran the sort of BD sales function because we were all different specialist areas, and they did pretty well, but a lot of their clients were London based, so there wasn't a huge amount. So I think the talent pool in itself in Scotland for big sales roles is probably not as strong as other places in the UK.
Really weak.
It's also, and this is just personal opinion with very little data to back it up, but I do think when I'm hiring people in recruitment, that salespeople, it's one of the most difficult industries to hire in because by nature, we're here to sell. Do you know where I'm here? I can tell you all the things that I know you want to hear.
Yeah.
So for me, a lot of it comes down to that interview process and how we really dig in terms of what they've achieved and not just what they say they're going to do. Because sales, listen, it's not rocket science. It's pretty easy, but actually doing the
Find out where they are, find out where they want to be, and does your solution fill the gap?
Yeah.
That's really sales, isn't it?
And most people in sales.
And make everybody think they're getting a really good deal. Give them two options, the one you want, the one you don't want.
Yeah. And it's also listening, isn't it? So most people in sales just talk.
Or even I always think also, like, when I don't do any sales anymore. Well, this is my sales. It's the business side of things. But obviously, I've got a sales team now, and I always I used to model even the sound of their voice. Depending on what kind of accent they had, and if they were polite or if they're kind of working. I would model the way that I spoke. Because then you're making that connection. Because if you're over on a phone, speaking to somebody, you've got to model that. And I say to my staff all the time, you really need to be listening more.
And there's an element, I think, of being that chameleon. But I also think, so sort of now looking at sales specifically, it's changed a lot where, you'd be sitting on the phone, you'd be doing 100 dials a day to speak to people, but nobody's answering their phone. There's all these screening tools. People are working at home. So I think you also have to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
So for example, last week I was sort of in sales mode. I think I'd made what would effectively have been sales calls, but I recorded 18 videos and I sent them out to clients, and I get 6 meetings off the back of it.
Wow.
So just thinking about how you're selling and adapting to this world, I think if you're sitting in an office just dialing, not getting anywhere and not changing up how you're doing it, then that's, it's a bit of a mistake. There's definitely other ways to get in front of people.
I could not agree more. I mean, most of our sales is, I'm going to say, they're hot leads. They've came through an ad or a... So most of the people that my team are speaking to, they've already shown an interest. So it should be an easier conversation. Not necessarily, but it should be. So that's the sales thing. Like, I want to go back to kind of recruitment and the world and how, so female and is it a male dominated industry still?
Yeah, it definitely is. Well, so
what was that like? What's it been like? So talk about the early days coming through.
Yeah, so the very early days, so I suppose, like most people say, they sort of fell into recruitment, but I'd actually sort of gone out of my way to get a job in recruitment. So I'd left school.
You thought you can make loads of money?
Well, and it wasn't even that. I was really, really naive, so I'm born in Glasgow, but I was brought up in Port Glasgow, went through, high school and everything, finished my hires, but I didn't really have that pull, that connection that I really wanted to go to university. So I thought, right, I'll take a year out, and I went and worked in a call centre for a year. It was meant to be a year. I was there for like 2.5, 3 years, and I loved it. And I also felt, James, that while I hadn't gone to university, I worked full-time in the call centre, but there was a load of people there who came in and worked part-time. So I still felt that I was surrounded by people at that age and stage in their life.
Of course.
And I was doing all the things, we're going to the garage and all that. So I still had that sort of lifestyle without, getting into loads of debt and getting a degree in something that I knew I was probably never going to use. So then
Thank God you never.
Yeah, exactly. And everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that.
Absolutely.
And a girl that I worked with, she had left to join recruitment, and I was like, what's recruitment? And I knew that I'd been placed at Lloyd's, the call centre I worked in, by a guy called Alan Matthew, who worked at Reed at the time, and he's now quite high up in MBN Solutions. So I was a bit like...
That's BIP's at the tendering company. I know them. They're in Glasgow as well, aren't they?
So they're just down at Pacific Quay.
That's right.
So I thought I could probably do that as well. So put my CV forward for a job at Reed. And long story short, after a few interviews, and I was rejected actually from the interview after the final. The lady who eventually hired me, Lillian Finlay, I'd phoned and asked for feedback because I didn't get the job, and I was obviously furious that I didn't get the job.
Why?
I won that job. And she said that's kind of what she needed. She hadn't really seen sort of drive and determination in me. She didn't feel like I wanted it enough, which you really, really need.
Sales, 100%.
But I think the fact that I went back and I was like, right, give me another chance then. So I did, and I got the job. And the rest is history,
But it's a tough gig, though.
Really tough. Like, and also, it was 20 years ago on the 9th of January. I'm a stickler for dates. But I remember walking in, and I was given these business cards, and it said, Principal Temporaries Consultant. And I was like, phoned my mum, and I'm like, Principal, does that mean I'm the boss? Right? I had no idea what was going on. And, as you went into the Reed office, there was all the girls downstairs, and they had like the Reed scarves on, and it was, the front face and reception. That was my vision of what I was going to do. Almost a bit like walking into a travel agency. And they walked me through the back of the office, up this wee spiral staircase, and I was put up in the back office, just me and one other girl. And I was like, oh, this isn't really what I thought it was going to be. But it was the making of me. I worked with some incredible people. Forever grateful to Lillian for giving me the opportunity. And I just built my career. I think it was at that point, it was clear, because I'd never really been great at sports or anything at school, I didn't realise that I had a competitive nature. It was only when it was sort of released in that call centre environment, where it
You're
was like somebody would be like, how many appointments did you make today? 33. I was like, I've got 35. That sort of, that's
you wanted to be the best.
That's where it formed. Absolutely.
I think that's
really
critical in your mind, isn't it? That you want to be. I say this all the time. Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I always say, like, my whole career, and I've had a few different paths, I've always wanted to be the best at what I did. And that has driven me to learn and be better, and just that constant, you know, you talk about the compound effect, that just a wee bit better every couple of days, every day, every week, every month, and it's amazing the impact, isn't it?
And I think just being sort of patient with that as well. So I think, you know, nothing happens overnight, and you really need to build that resilience. So I think, I probably didn't realise how thick a skin I had and how much resilience I did have.
Is that your upbringing?
Yes, I think so, yeah. Do you know, that just... be lassie for the port, do you know what I mean? So you had to get through it. But I think as well, do you know, my mum's super strong, my dad is, you know, there's a lot of that around me. And I think as I was going through my career, I quickly realised that as one person, you know, I would only ever be so good. So I thought, for me to get to, you know, where I want to be the top of my game, then I kind of need to hire people that are better than me. I need to get into that management leadership
101,
space.
Isn't it? Yeah. Hire really good people.
And it's very, very difficult though, because I think when you come from a world of, you know, wanting to be the best and that's in you, you know, I can look back on it now and admit that there were times I was really scared of the people that were around me that were better than me. You know, how did that make me look? And actually, was I
ultimately made you successful?
Yeah, it did, but it also kind of makes you a bit like, oh God, are they going to show me up? Is this going to look like I'm not as good as what I thought I was? So all of those kind of obsessive thoughts almost in your head that can actually halt your growth and their growth. 100%. It's something that I've learned over the years as well.
And by the way, that is a big, so obviously we're a leadership company, and that is quite a big thing, by the way, in the space of management and leadership, is they're frightened to hire really good people.
I see it.
And then just let them do what you're hiring them to do. I mean,
every day.
So I say it to my team. Like, I don't have all the answers, but I know in here, I know yous do.
And that's the importance of building like really diverse teams and all of that, because if you don't, you'll just keep coming up with the same ideas, or you'll just, you know, you'll get to a point and you'll plateau in business. So I think you really need that. But I think early on in your career, it's very easy to be like, oh, I think they're brilliant, but I don't know if I want to hire somebody as brilliant as them, because how's that going to make me look?
But that changes though, doesn't it? When you get the experience and realise what real leadership is all about. It is about finding really good people and then just letting them go for it and letting them do it right. So let's go back. So you started your recruitment. How long were you in that job specifically?
So I was at Reed for about 4 years, worked my way up from trainee consultant, and by the time I left, I had my own branch out in Hamilton.
Wow.
So I went through their management academy when I was like 23. So I think I was one of the one of the youngest managers I think they'd ever had. And that thread sort of continued. So I was sort of approached to move to Search. I spent 11 years at Search, almost 11 years.
They're huge as well, another huge company.
So Simone Lockhart, she was the MD for a huge chunk of the time that I was there. And she had been, I think she'd got promoted to associate director when she was 30. And again, it was for me just having that aspirational person.
Somebody to look up to as well,
like, I want to get there, but almost get there a little bit sooner. I really wanted to make her proud of me. So I remember when I got promoted to associate director when I was 29 at Search, and I was like, I remember Graham Sharp coming to me and saying, you know, you've done it. Like, you're literally the youngest AD that we've ever had in the company. So I think that as well, being completely goal oriented, it was never, I know recruitment can be seen as, you know, a place where you can go and make money, but actually for me, that was never the driver. It was never the
money was
driver.
The byproduct to being really good at what you did.
It was that. It was like achieving milestones, getting promotions, being recognised. You know, I've still got a folder from all my promotions that I got when I was at Search, and all the nice messages that people sent me after I was promoted. It's those types of things that's really mean something happens. To me. Yeah.
It is. That's the magic happens. I talk about it all the time. Like, my team, see when anybody just does something over and above, I actually take the time to say, by the way, we just want to say, Shannon, thank you for that. I know you didn't have to do that, but I was really impressed. Yeah. We'll just do wee things that make so much difference. Another example would be, you know, when our staff do something, we've a thing called the MQ Award, right? And we do it's every quarter, and it's motivation intelligence. So people that live and breathe our motivation, our team, that live and breathe it, and it's 500 quid to get a quarter, and it's always somebody wins it. And then, so we just gave it this award. So one of the team went over and above, and we just said, I phoned them up and says, listen, see you on Friday or Saturday, I want you and your go out, have a lovely meal, have some nice wine, and expense it to the company. I'm going to cover the cost. you'd have thought I'd just handed him a cheque for £1 million.
I do. I think things like that, incentives like that are more personal.
Yes.
Do you know, I think just giving somebody an extra £500 in their paycheck, like, listen, do you know, cost of living.
Nice certificate, all that.
Exactly, but actually something that's tangible. Do you know that when you're out, you're having that experience and you know that it's directly correlated to a good job that you did. I think, as you say, that's a different feeling.
Oh, absolutely. Right. So these are two big companies. So Reed, Search. I mean, that must have been really good grounding.
Yeah.
Because they're big companies. That must have been like, they would have the pro systems and processes and management training. So you obviously got a really good grounding.
Yeah.
What happened next?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I feel very lucky for the training that I've had throughout the years. And then COVID happened.
Oh, right,
so,
okay,
COVID happened, and you know what? I am probably one of the people who looks back on that time with real gratitude, because it changed the game for me. It changed the path that I was on. So I'm the type of person, I can't really just kind of sit and do nothing. I think I live in my own, you know. I think people were a little bit worried about what I was going to do and how it was going to impact me. So I was furloughed. But again, I felt lucky because, you know, I was topped up, I was still earning money, I had that 3-month period off, almost 3 months I think. Felt really guilty for my team because I wasn't really able to support them any other way than just on a personal level. But basically I was right into the gym and everything at the time, so I decided to start. But what I did initially was I took up a career life coach. It was somebody that I'd known through Search who'd left me by a year or two before to do this, and I thought she was fantastic. And I think I'd probably known maybe a year before then, when I got to this sort of 10-year mark, that it was time to do something else. And I'd tested the water a bit over the years. You know, I'd got job offers in London but never actually went. Just scared. I was scared.
Yeah, of course.
And I worked with Catherine Tiddy, and she was incredible. So we worked together for a period of 3 months, and we came to the conclusion that if I've done it once, I can do it again. That was one of my big things that I stood by. There was a lot around, you know, family and stuff as well. And the other one was just be brave. And all I wanted to do coming out of that was make some brave decisions.
Scary.
Really scary decisions. And I started
best decisions though.
Interviewing in London. I also started training to become a PT. So I was like, I was going to be, I did all my qualifications, and there was just a lot of stuff.
You just went for a go for the yes.
I just thought, let's just do something. You know, I knew I wanted to do something different. And ended up, I didn't go for the job in London, but I did decide I need to leave Search. If I don't leave now, I'm never going to leave.
You're going to be stuck there forever.
And things were good. You know, I was performing. And there were definitely some issues, I would say, with the leadership that I had at that time, just my direct leadership. So that was probably one of the key things that made me actually make the move.
And we always leave because of the people above us.
It was 100% that.
I've had my whole career's been, oh really? Okay, see ya.
Which again, you also have to then
in a nice way.
Yeah, and you have to look inwardly as well, though,
of course.
Isn't it? Because I'm sure there's people that have worked for me and they've left because of me. So, do you know, I'm under no illusions. It's not just about mudslinging, but
no, absolutely.
It let me move forward into that sales director job.
Yeah.
Because I knew what I wanted to do was I wanted to get into the tech space. So for me to have a career with any sense of longevity, I think I could probably see 5 years ago that office services wasn't going to be around forever. We're not in offices, receptionists, PAs, all of this automation is coming in. You don't need that job on the same scale as what we've needed all these years before. So I thought I need to, while it probably wasn't the passion that drove me to data tech and AI, it was a sound business decision that if I wanted to
this is the future,
continue my career in recruitment and continue to have a successful career, I probably needed to do something a bit different. And so went to that company for 6 months, decided it probably wasn't for me. Great company, amazing people, really grateful for the opportunity. But what it did do was allow me to make that move then into tech recruitment without having to take that step back, because I'd probably done that. So I went into Net Talent as a director for a couple of years, and then the opportunity came up to join MBN, and joined there as their client services director and was promoted to their MD about a year in based on performance.
And the CEO, is he CEO? Is he the founder? Is
yes,
the CEO?
CEO and founder.
He is a very growth mindset person, because when you see his talks, and he is very much, it's hiring great people and then allowing them to go do their thing and being open minded, and I don't know everything. I kind of, even though I've never met him,
that's exactly who he is.
That's the impersonation I get from how he obviously presents himself.
But Michael, what you see is what you get, and that's what I really loved. There's
I think the best leaders are like that, though.
Ever since I've joined the business, there's been, I've never felt a need to hide who I am, and there's been some things that have happened, in my personal life that have encroached on, professional life, and there's been opportunity for me to do things that, as a mark of respect, I would always give Michael his place and ask, and I would never do anything that he was uncomfortable with. I can't stress it enough that he's been the most supportive person, and I don't want this to sound bad, but I almost kind of wouldn't necessarily have expected that from a male boss as much as I would have from a female boss, and actually because
females are naturally more empathetic, and I'm going to go back to this in a minute.
It's my experience has been the complete opposite. Do you know what I mean? So I've had so much support. He's very much, like for example, this year he's gone through and he's just stopped drinking. He's like 8 months in.
I do it every year.
Yeah, so and this is the longest he's always challenged himself, but this is the furthest he's got.
Year.
And I'm like, I don't think he'll ever do it again. So, but it has been a challenge, because anything that he does do, it's never something that's easy. So for me, the podcast, he's started these data impact leadership round tables, which I think we could take, globally. So he's exactly what you see is what you get. Absolutely.
Absolutely right. So I want to go back to because you've had a lot of female bosses, and which generally in a male-dominated environment is pretty unique, right?
Yep.
We work in the construction sector, quite big in the construction, and kind of tech, and most is very male-dominated. And what we tend to hear, right, is, and I interviewed about 50 or just over 50 senior females, right, in a particular sector. And I asked them the question about growth and their biggest regrets and the things that matter to them most. And one thing came out, right, that because they didn't have another female like in the industry to look up to, and I'm going to go back to you in a minute, because they never had somebody to look up to, they were taking on the traits and characteristics of the men. They were taking on these. I need to be aggressive, and I need to be this, and I need to be that. And that's the exact opposite of leadership. Yep. In fact, leadership is about empathy, understanding, being kind, being, trusting people to make the right decisions, and no answering bloody questions, like let them tell you. So going back, you've obviously had females to look up to. Has that helped? And what was your experience?
Yeah, I would say so to a certain extent. So, for example, if I look at Simone, who was never my direct line manager.
Just somebody to look up to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that was who I sort of tried to model myself on. That was who I wanted to impress. Love the word model, because that's critical, isn't it? Absolutely. And it's funny, we went to another event, it was like an HR network event, and this lady stood up and she gave a talk. She was ex-Strathclyde Police Scotland now. And she gave this talk about sunflowers and who's your sunflower, etc. And I remember turning around and saying to Simone, that's exactly what the dynamic is. Wherever she goes, I'm looking at what she's doing, and that was
how she's doing, how she talks, how she carries herself.
So some of the best compliments I would get, further down the line would be, oh my God, you just sounded exactly like Simone there. And thankfully, she didn't see it as being weird. This weird stalker or whatever. And we've built a really strong relationship that's gone from her being, my boss's boss to now being a huge part of my life, one of my best friends. I'm almost part of the family, which is it's been great, because what I've then been able to see, James, it wasn't just how she carried herself in work, it's how she carries herself in every aspect of her life. And that's the key of leadership. People think that leadership ends when they walk out the office. It actually begins. Because people are always, your children, the people around about you, your employees, they're watching you. Right? Even at a distance, even your clients, they're watching you at a distance. And it's about going back to that whole being authentic. If that is who you are, going back to what we talked about with your CEO Michael, be who you say you are.
act authentic and just be kind.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And that's it. And it sounds, it is very simple, but I think you're right. A lot of people go into business, or they're in businesses where people aren't who they say they are.
Yes.
And so they come in, and it's almost like they can imagine a man getting out the car in the morning and putting his mask on, and what he is in business is very different to what he is at home.
Yes.
And so if that's your leader and that's your visionary and that's the person who's setting the scene every single day, then it's very difficult not to fall into that trap.
Absolutely.
And, I remember when I first got promoted into, was it the DM or AD role? And I just remember something shifted. It was quite a big job, and the person that I worked for at the time, I really didn't want to be like that person.
Yes.
I was exactly like that person.
Yeah.
So everything that person did, I then did. And it really didn't work because that's not who I am.
Yes.
So that's who she is.
Yeah.
It's not who I was. So I had completely changed almost overnight from being this person who was part of the team and, on board and we were all in it together to very much being, I'm telling you to do this, and if it's not done, my God, it makes me. It
I
gives
call
me
that
shivers.
manager communication,
oh my goodness,
telling and directing.
Shivers even thinking about how that must have come across at the time. But we live and we learn, and
That's
I think you have to go through.
You live and you learn, don't you?
Yeah.
It's the learning you take from it, 100%. So you've had really strong females, ones that you've thought, yep, absolutely. Sorry, what was your friend's name?
Simone.
It's like Simone, somebody you really want to model, and you've had the other ones where you're just like, I really don't want to be like that. Mm-hmm. And that obviously models or molds who you are today. So what is it that makes you now? Like if you're looking in a reflection, who are you? Who is Shannon as an MD? What matters?
Yeah, people matter to me.
Yeah.
That's it, right? So I think for me, I know that I cannot do my job without good people, without the right people. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be way, way harder. And also what success looks like to me is now different from what it looked like years ago.
Yes.
So one of the big things that I worked through with Catherine Tiddy was, breaking down this idea of what success. To me, I'd never actually questioned it. It was everybody else's vision of success, and everybody else's ideas of what that looked like. And I think now, because I'm so much clearer on who I am as a person and what I want in my life and how I want to live my life, that I'm not actually controlled by these restrictions or boundaries that we put on ourselves. And life needs to look like this, and if I'm not achieving that, then I'm not successful. Because I think a lot of the time in the past, that created a pressure that didn't really need to be there. So I probably deal with pressure a lot differently now than what I did a decade ago. And I think that's changed who I am as an MD. While I would have probably wanted it and maybe felt like I was ready for it a couple of years earlier, I definitely wasn't. And I think it could have been the difference between being successful in my first MD role and not being successful. I think my first job as an MD, I was very lucky to find the space that I'm in to do it now, because I'm allowed to be who I am, do it my way. I'm not feeling like I have to do it Michael's way or have to do it the MBN way. There's been a real opportunity here to create something and build something, which has been amazing.
That's special, isn't it? To get
to
a point
it doesn't exist in a lot of places.
No, it doesn't. Okay, so there's a couple of points I wanted to go back to. So what is success now?
Yeah, for me...
we'll start with your personal success, then we'll talk about it in different contexts.
So for me, success it's happiness, and I don't mean, all the things that you need to be happy. It's like waking up in the morning...
Being grateful.
And not having a sense of dread, right?
Yes.
So even on the bad days, even on the tough days, I don't dread going to my work, and I hope that nobody else does. That's part of success for me. There's also a sort of sense of freedom. So for me, I tend to live my life without very much of a plan. And I like being able to do that. I like to have the freedom where I can live sort of month to month. There's that sort of psychological security that I know I'm in the right space. I know there's longevity here. I know that I can continue to grow, so I don't even feel that I've got to the MD level. I can keep going.
Yep.
And the fact that my ambition is celebrated and I don't feel like I have to sort of put myself in a box to make somebody else feel less threatened by my ambition.
Yep.
So the fact that Michael is keen for me to keep going and keep growing and developing and potentially, do you know, whatever that looks like, maybe, you know, taking over MBN one day. And we've not had those conversations yet because we're right in the trenches of building something really special right now. But I think to even know that there's somebody who sees that in you and who sees the potential, I think that's success. And I suppose lastly, is being brave. Like I've been able to create this version of myself that wasn't somebody that existed 10 years ago. And I think to be able to keep evolving and make these brave decisions rather than just having stayed somewhere because it was easy and I was successful, actually pushing myself out of these comfortable positions to take risks that, you know, they might not always pay off, but I think having that, I'll always be okay. I think that's success.
Do you know what's really strange? So we run a programme called Women in Leadership, and it's all females that's on it. We have a similar programme for mixed, but we built a space for women to come in and talk freely about their challenges, because it is different for a woman. I mean, you talk about equality, right? And it isn't actually equal for women and men, right? It's not. I know a lot of men might not like this, but it's harder for a woman to be a successful entrepreneur, business owner, managing director, you know, any kind of senior position. It's a much harder struggle now. I know you said you don't have kids, but this is how I look at it. Most females, or a large percentage of females, have got children. And the children's sick, they phone the mum. They're thinking about dinner. Have they been to the shop? And I'm like, it's no equal. It's just no equal.
So even somebody, so I don't have children, but even if we take it a step further and we look at caring responsibilities as our parents get older. So I've got a brother.
It's a woman's responsibility.
That falls to me every time with both my parents, and one's one end of the city, one's the other end of the city. So there's that. And I think, you know, as you say, some men might not want to hear it, but in my experience, then that's just ignorance, because the data does not lie. The data isn't lying. Women are not sitting here saying this is how we feel. We feel this way because it's an actual fact. You know, the data is there, and we're definitely getting better. And I think a lot of that responsibility does land on men to, you know,
I agree.
Encourage
being
other
educated in what it is actually like. I mean, I used to go into meetings. My wife doesn't do the meetings. When we used to go, when we first started in business, and people would talk. Now, my wife runs our business. I'm just the big face. I'm the guy that's sitting there, you know, here I am, this is what we do, and we're amazing. But she runs the business, and they talk to me. And I'm like, no, you need to speak to her. Like, because I don't even know. Like, you need to speak to her.
And it's funny, isn't it, when you can actually see it happening in real time. And I think, you know, there's, I would say, you know, I've been relatively lucky over the years. I haven't had a huge amount of bad experiences in a professional sense with men. On a personal level, it's completely different. But I do think when you see and you hear some of the stories, you know, in a lot of the rooms that I sit in, you do hear these stories, that it's wild that in this day and age we're still having to have these conversations.
Absolutely right. I want to go back to something you said about brave. So let's say there's a woman sitting listening to this podcast, driving to work, and, you know, they see a promotional opportunity, and what most women do is they talk themselves out. I'm not ready yet. I don't have the experience. What is it that you do to shift that? Because obviously you haven't always been like that. So there's something shifted in your brain that said, right, I might not feel ready, but I'm going to do this anyway. What is that? What could you tell them? So they're sitting thinking about this right now, and they're going, see, it's all right for Shannon, but I couldn't do that.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, it's very, very easy to stay where you are rather than to think about where you could be. So, and this is something I just heard recently, right? So if we think about how we talk to ourselves every day, we wake up in the morning, and the majority of what we say is negative, like, without you even realising
unless you train yourself to think the opposite.
So this is it, right? So if you think, let's say, for example, you see an opportunity and your immediate thing is, well, I've not got the experience, there's already 150 applications, they'll probably never see my application, all of this negative self-talk, or just negative talk in general,
And then you look at social media and then it's amplified. Then you look at the TV and it's amplified.
Yeah. You owe it to yourself to even just switch that 50%, right? So if you're going to give yourself 100% negative talk, let's just get to the point where we say, right, do you know what? With every negative thing, I might not get the job, or my CV might be rubbish compared to everybody else's, start saying, well, actually, they might be really grateful. I might be the best candidate they've seen that whole day.
Just changing it.
Just counteract. Anything
Absolutely.
negative, try and counteract it. And for me personally, I think I don't know what I believe in, but I do believe in something. There's some sort of faith within me that I think everything happens for a reason, and I think everything will always be all right. Mm-hmm. So I'm always a bit like, what's the worst that can happen? Do you know, I'm a wee bit brazen in that way, that I think, what's the worst? You know, I'll be able to
start again if I need to.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think having a wee bit of, you know, security there and knowing that you've got a good career to look back on, you will always get a job. Now, your life might not go back to the way it was, but I think actually if you can focus on the fact that I don't actually want my life to ever go back, I want to keep moving forward. Yeah. So try not to think about what you're leaving behind and try to think about what you're moving towards, because I think that's a lot of the time the thing that holds us back is the fact that we're thinking about what we're leaving rather than what we're working towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's critical. So by the way, there's statistics. It was a study that was done. I think it's 93% of a normal person's thoughts are negative.
That's wild,
and 7% are positive. And you wonder why we live in this world where everybody's... And by the way, the news and the TV, they dial that up.
Yeah.
Think about every single story you hear in the news.
Yeah, and I just don't watch
negative.
it.
I don't watch the news either. I don't read newspapers. I don't nothing.
Because I'm very protective over my mental health.
Yes.
So I've been very lucky, I would say, you know, in my life that I haven't suffered with mental health, but a lot of people in my family have.
Yep.
And so for me, I think just knowing what those triggers are, you know, because there's definitely things that if I was to see something, it would completely alter my whole mood. It would completely alter my energy for that day. So while some people might say, oh, you know, it's ignorant or you're not aware of what's going on, I am very much aware, but I just choose not to sit and watch it and create a space in my head where I'm sad or I'm anxious or I'm worried. And I think that's easy for me to say because I'm not in it. I can imagine how difficult that must be for somebody who, you know, is maybe at home, they're not working, they don't have a career because of their mental health, and then all we've got is the news and social media just constantly coming at them. I think that must be a really hard place to be.
Absolutely. And I'll always go back to, just because this is how you're thinking and feeling now, you can change it. Like, you have to make that decision.
Yeah.
But right, I do not want to be this person. Like, I think back to young James, right, when you're always comparing yourself to other people, and you know, I had dyslexia and I didn't know ADHD, I know now, and I had all these things. I couldn't concentrate, and I always thought I was thick. And then I built my career and I was running $billion companies, and I'm like, well, I can't be that thick.
Yeah.
You know, this wee guy from Glasgow can't be that thick.
And I would love to see the stats, and obviously we're maybe a bit away from it now because there's a lot of just diagnosis coming through now. And I'd seen something the other day.
I didn't even know what dyslexia was.
Right.
I just thought I just didn't know how to write and spell.
And it was I can't remember what the meme was, but it was brilliant. It was something like, you know, why is there so many people now in the world with autism and ADHD? And it was like, well, something happened all these years ago that why are we not questioning the fact that that's it? It hasn't just started now. It's been going on for years.
We just never had labels for them then.
But if we can see, you know, some of the stats and the data around our entrepreneurs, our biggest people in business, it's generally people who have got neurodiverse going on in the head.
Listen,
because you've got all these ideas.
Normally business owners or entrepreneurs, right? Most of the people that come on the podcast, and almost without fail, Shannon, almost every one of them have got an identical story. An identical story.
I would find that
and you're like, wow. Like, I left school and I had no qualifications, nothing. But it wasn't going to stop me.
Yeah, and it's funny because I always said if I ever did have kids, which I won't now, but I don't know why it was so specific to boys, but I was like, I would never want to force that child to go through that school system. And, you know, what's at the end? I do think I don't know if we're going off on a tangent here, but I think it's wild that we're expecting 16-year-old boys to decide what they want to do with the rest of their life.
Crazy.
When the prefrontal cortex in their brain doesn't fully form till they're 25.
Crazy.
It's wild.
I know.
So I think there needs to be better constructs in education, you know, so that we can create pathways for entrepreneurs, for business people, for tech people, you know, to really use where we need them to go in the world, and continuing to educate for a world that existed hundreds of years ago.
I don't think the system wants us to think for ourselves.
Yeah.
I actually put a post on LinkedIn, I think it was a few weeks ago, about this. Yeah, I'm very opinionated. And it was about the system, and I just think it's no longer fit for purpose. The school and the education system, it's no longer fit for purpose. Even that drive, and nothing wrong with going to university, you know, they've went in 4 years, so there's a commitment, so you kind of think, right, that person's, you know, they've got that wee bit in them to just keep going. But you don't need to go to university to be successful in life. Like, you really don't. In fact, most of them struggle when they commit. We've got people, right, we've hired people who have left university with psychology degrees, and they're working my marketing.
And this is
psychology degree.
Yeah. And one of the other things, taking it back to AI, but one of the sectors I think that will be really affected by artificial intelligence is going to be the education sector, because we've seen it through COVID that you can self-learn, and you can self-learn pretty easily. Do you know what I mean? So paying these huge university fees, and listen, there's obviously, you know, surgeons, lawyers, all that type of thing that there is a requirement, but there's a way that you can learn quicker, easier, better, and come away with no debt.
Technology, that's what it is. It's the no, what is it they call it? The revolution of knowledge. So we can learn more in 12 hours. If you go back 10 years ago, that it took us 12 weeks, we can learn more because the knowledge is there. And I'm going to go back right to the whole recruitment and all that. And what would you tell someone, right? So that again, we're kind of going back to the person sitting listening, and they want to go for their job, and they want their CV to be up to date, right? But I don't think the CV is the thing that matters, right? I think it's the attitude, right? So see, when I speak to someone, not I mean, I don't always hire now. I get people, I've got some members of my team, but I always say to them, I don't care about their qualifications. I care about their attitude, right? Because everything else I can teach, but I can't teach them attitude. They've got to have that. They've got to have that drive. What would you say to somebody? They're looking to go into the world, even maybe they're looking to move positions. What's a bit of advice?
So the soft skills are, as you say, just as important as a qualification. So even if there is a job that requires a certain qualification, so let's say, for example, in AI, you know, you might need a computer science degree. They will also require you to have those soft skills. So I think make sure as you go through your life, you're building those up as well. But for me, if somebody was actively looking for a job, right, and it's not just because I work in recruitment, I would say get yourself a recruiter, because that will do way more work than you can do individually. They've got relationships that you won't have. If you're against that for whatever reason, you have to stand out. So you have to know that your CV is not the thing that's going to get you the job. You're going to get you the job. So you have to find a way to get in front of that.
It's almost going back to your video thing.
It's exactly that. So see, if it was me, right, and people want genuine advice, I'd find out who the hiring manager was, or I'd find out who the MD or the CEO or one of the directors were, and I'd contact them on LinkedIn. I'd just send them a message, like, I've put an application in, but I really, really want to work for your company. Is there anything you can do to get me in front of that person? Like, that is head and
tenacity,
shoulders.
Attitude, commitment,
and you know,
drive,
if that company doesn't like that, you're probably not the right person for them, right? If they don't like the fact that you would put yourself out there and go for what you want, then they might not be the right organisation for you. But there are so many ways that you can get in front of people now, that if you're just relying on sending a CV, and that CV probably doesn't sell you as well as it could because you're not an expert in recruitment. You're likely to talk yourself down. You probably haven't spent the time, because again, a lot of the time when people are looking for a job, it's maybe through desperation, it's maybe through redundancy. They're probably not feeling at their most confident. So really using your personality, who you are, and showing that you want something, I think, can make a huge difference in getting you in front of people.
I'm going to close in a minute. I had a young engineer, IT engineer for Aberdeen, had contacted me looking for a job, and we didn't have any positions available. So I said, look, let's go on a call and I'll kind of talk you through the things that you should do. And the very first thing I said was, create a video. Tell them what your degree is, tell them what you've studied, and tell them why you want to work for company A, company B, company C. I said, put it on there. I said, there'll be somebody on LinkedIn that'll know who it is, the company that you want to work for. And he did it, and he got the job.
Do you know what? And so it just shows
he just put a video on LinkedIn.
The amount of times that people do it and it works. And for example, even on the sales side as well, you know, I did a video to a client the other day, and it was a huge company, I think it was Sonos or something, and while they don't use agencies, she's got no intention of using me, but she messaged me back and she was like, I absolutely loved the video, loved the personal touch. You know, had that been an email I sent following up in a sales call, she was never responding. It probably went straight to junk. So you have to use the tools at your disposal to be seen.
Absolutely. So it's basically just change the game. If you're right, I ask all my guests this, right, as we close off, your top 3 pieces of advice in business or in life.
So in life, just in general, and I know it sounds cheesy, but do just be kind. You just never know what anybody's going through. And
everybody's got a story.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with being kind, just try to be less judgmental of people. I think just in business, be brave. You know, put yourself out there, take risks. It's the only thing that pays off. You know, nothing good comes from comfort zones.
We all know that,
and just be happy. Do you know, try find the joy in every day, even in the days that are really tough. And I know the world is tough right now, but just try and focus on finding one good thing every single day, and just watch how that changes your mindset.
Amazing. Absolutely. Listen, Shannon, it's been an absolute,
I've loved it.
Absolute pleasure. Before we go, the podcast is built around my book. So here's the book. This is my story.
Thank you so much.
Leaving school with dyslexia and not having a bloody clue. So there's a wee book for you.
I'm a reader, so I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Listen, as I said, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, Shannon.
Love that. Thank you.
I know that people will be listening to this going, right, now I know how to change that mindset. So again, thank you so much. I really appreciated it.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.